A media group owned by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, named Archewell Audio, has agreed to end its deal with Spotify.
Everything is temporary.
It's over. Harry and Meghan's estimated $25 million podcast deal canceled after less than a year.
My wife and I were moving on.
June 15, 2023, Spotify and Archewell Audio released a joint statement. They had mutually agreed to part ways. Translation: Meghan Markle's podcast deal was over. She'd signed a $20 million contract with Spotify in December 2020.
Rated well amongst, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this is Meghan's Archetypes podcast, where she interviews renowned women and some men of influence, like herself.
3 years later, she'd produced exactly 12 episodes. One season. That was it. Spotify canceled the deal.
Okay, Spotify Wrapped has been and gone, but I would like to present to you Meghan Markle Wrapped.
Ooh!
That's right. We are going to break down Meghan's year in just a few
Meghan.
quick minutes and give you a whole host of highlights of everything she did this year.
Meghan didn't get the full $20 million payout. And one of Spotify's top executives went on his own podcast and called Meghan and Harry fucking grifters. This is the story of how Meghan Markle lost one of the biggest podcast deals in history, what went wrong behind the scenes, and why nobody at Spotify wanted to work with her again.
H&M issued a joint statement with Spotify saying they have mutually agreed to part ways and they are proud of the series.
We laugh and we have a lot of fun, but we also, I think, dig a lot deeper than some of us have been allowed to before.
Let's start with the deal. In December 2020, Meghan and Harry signed an exclusive multi-year podcast agreement with Spotify through their production company, Archewell Audio. The deal was reportedly worth $20 million. At the time, it was a huge coup. Spotify was throwing money at celebrity podcasts. They'd signed deals with Barack and Michelle Obama, Kim Kardashian, and Joe Rogan. Meghan and Harry were supposed to be the next big thing.
People should expect the real me in this, and probably the me that they've never gotten to know, certainly not in the past few years, where everything is through the lens of the media, as opposed to, hey, it's me. I'm just excited to be myself and talk and be unfiltered, and yeah, it's fun.
The plan was simple. Archewell Audio would produce multiple podcast series. Meghan would host. Harry would potentially host his own show. They'd create content that uplifts and entertains audiences around the world and spotlights diverse perspectives and voices. It sounded great on paper, but then nothing happened.
Testing 1, 2. Hello. I got a big thumbs up. I appreciate that. Okay, welcome to Archetypes. Let's do this.
For almost 2 years, Archewell Audio produced nothing. No shows, no episodes, just silence. Spotify started getting nervous. They'd invested millions. Where was the content? Finally, in August 2022, Meghan's podcast Archetypes premiered on Spotify. The tagline was, "A podcast where we investigate, dissect, and subvert the labels that try to hold women back." The first episode featured Serena Williams. They talked about ambition, motherhood, and stereotypes against women. Prince Harry even made a surprise cameo. The podcast became an instant hit. It went to #1 in 6 countries, including the US and the UK. Spotify reported that Archetypes averaged over 1 million listens per episode. The show topped 10 million total listens. In December 2022, Archetypes won the People's Choice Award for Top Podcast of the Year. Meghan called it a labor of love. She said, "I love digging my hands into the process, sitting up late at night in bed, working on the writing and creative." But behind the scenes, Spotify executives were furious. The production was a disaster. According to The Spectator, it took 28 people to produce each episode. That included 8 executive producers. For context, most successful podcasts use a team of 3 to 5 people. Meghan's show had over double the normal headcount. The costs were astronomical. Critics also tore the podcast apart. The Telegraph's Celia Walden said, "If the rest of the season is anything like the premiere, what we're really going to be listening into week after week is Meghan interviewing herself." She added, "Every woman has had a girlfriend like Meghan, the one who turns every confidence back to them and hijacks every distressing anecdote with one of their own. Only theirs is longer, drawn out, more distressing."
Not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
The Times columnist Hillary Rose was even harsher. "I've listened to 57 minutes and 28 seconds of Meghan Markle's syrupy California drawl while rocking back and forth and moaning softly under my breath," she wrote. "This podcast is pure narcissistic gibberish." Royal commentators accused Meghan of making the show entirely about herself instead of her guests. Royal expert Daniela Elser called the premiere episode a dud and argued that Meghan spoke too much. The Spectator noted that Archetypes was just a vehicle for the Duchess to concentrate on talking about herself. There were also allegations that Meghan didn't even conduct all the interviews herself. A royal commentator claimed that producers interviewed some of the featured experts, and Meghan's audio was dropped in later. Archewell Audio denied the allegations, but the damage was done.
Yeah, I think the fall of Harry and Meghan is finally starting to happen, because when they left the royal family, they were the hottest commodity, literally, in Hollywood, in the UK. Everybody wanted to hear their story. I think now people are sick of listening to their story.
Yeah.
So we were just chatting there on the break, because when they first came out, they did a deal with Netflix, they did the Oprah tell-all, they did the deal with Spotify, and now it seems that all of the production houses are starting to slowly step back. So Spotify was a very overpriced deal, $20 million. I think Meghan produced 11 episodes. Now, I listened to the podcast. It was not great. No. It was very much like the people she had on it were amazing. She had Serena Williams, Mariah Carey. Personally, listening to it, whenever Serena, like in her episode, was talking about her childhood, Meghan constantly brought it back to herself. There was a lot of criticism of that online. I listened to them to see were they good. They weren't. And she didn't really talk about her royal family experience, which I think is what Spotify signed the dotted line for.
Yeah.
Critics called the show too woke and irrelevant. One commentator asked, "Are we really complaining about stereotypes in Austin Powers movies?" Despite the criticism, Meghan released 12 episodes between August and November 2022. Guests included Mariah Carey, Paris Hilton, Mindy Kaling, and Issa Rae. The final episode aired on November 29th, 2022. Then nothing. Meghan didn't release any new episodes. No second season was announced. Spotify waited. Months passed.
Meghan Markle has dropped her first podcast on Spotify.
I'm Meghan, and this is Archetypes, my podcast about the labels and tropes that try to hold women back.
By early 2023, Spotify executives were done. They'd expected multiple series from Archewell Audio over 3 years. Instead, they got one show with 12 episodes. According to sources close to the discussions, Spotify felt Meghan and Harry had failed to meet the productivity benchmark required for the full payout. The deal was worth $20 million, but that was contingent on producing enough content. 12 episodes in 3 years wasn't enough. In June 2023, Spotify pulled the plug. The joint statement said they mutually agreed to part ways. But that was PR spin. Spotify fired them, and they made sure everyone knew it. Bill Simmons, head of podcast innovation and monetization at Spotify, went on his own podcast the day the news broke and unleashed. "The fucking grifters," Simmons said. "That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation." Simmons continued, "I'm so tired of this guy," referring to Harry. "What does he bring to the table? He just whines about shit and keeps giving interviews. Who gives a shit? Who cares about your life? You weren't even the favorite son." Simmons also revealed he'd been on a Zoom call with Harry to help him with podcast ideas. "I gotta get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry," Simmons said. "It's one of my best stories." United Talent Agency CEO Jeremy Zimmer also piled on. "Turns out Meghan Markle was not a great audio talent, or necessarily any kind of talent," Zimmer told Semaphore. Spotify CEO Daniel Ek later explained why the partnership failed. "We thought new innovation was needed to happen here," Ek said. "We can come in and offer a great experience that both makes consumers very happy and allows new creators new avenues." Translation: Meghan's podcast failed to make a lasting impression on listeners. The numbers looked good at first, but engagement dropped. People stopped listening. Meghan and Harry didn't respond to Simmons' comments directly. Instead, a spokesperson said Meghan was continuing to develop more content for the Archetypes audience on another platform. She tried to trademark the name Archetypes so she could take the show elsewhere. In June 2023, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office rejected her application. In September 2023, Meghan withdrew the trademark application entirely. She gave up on the Archetypes name. In February 2024, Meghan found a new home for her podcast. Lemonada Media, a female-founded podcast company, announced they would redistribute the first season of Archetypes on all platforms. Meghan would also launch a new podcast series. But as of December 2025, that new series still hasn't launched. Lemonada promoted it heavily, but nothing materialized. The Spotify deal was supposed to be Meghan and Harry's big break into media. Instead, it became one of their most public failures. They lost millions. Their reputation took a massive hit, and Spotify executives spent months trash-talking them in interviews. Meghan produced one season of a podcast that critics hated, took almost 2 years to deliver, and required a production team twice the size of normal shows. Spotify expected multiple series. They got 12 episodes. That's why Meghan Markle lost her Spotify deal and $20 million. If you want more shocking stories about Meghan and the royals, hit that like button and subscribe to Crown Chaos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video, and drop a comment below. Do you think Meghan deserved to lose the deal, or did Spotify expect too much? Let us know your thoughts.
A media group owned by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, named Archewell Audio, has agreed to end its deal with Spotify.
Everything is temporary.
It's over. Harry and Meghan's estimated $25 million podcast deal canceled after less than a year.
My wife and I were moving on.